Hello Movie Mavens! Welcome back to another video on the B Movies channel. My name is Bailey and I put the B in movies. So first of all, Happy New Year. I hope you're having a wonderful new year. Just to give you a little cheesy pep talk up top, you don't have to have resolutions. If you do, I hope that they work out for you. I hope that you don't put too much pressure on yourself to resolve them. But either way, I hope you're having a good year so far, and if you're not, we're only a few days in. So just know that it can hopefully only go up from here. The world is burning and crumbling, but it's gonna be fine, maybe. Great pep talk, team. So anyway, moving upward and onward, let's go ahead and start off with our blog roundup for the week. If you are new around here, the B Movies channel is a continuation of the B Movies blog. We're just bmovies.blog. It's always linked down in that description box below. And on Fridays, we do a blog roundup because we release pieces every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. CST. So you can also subscribe, get those emailed directly to you. And then we also do on my personal Instagram, which is also in the description box below, at Lisa_Frankenstein_. I do a blog roundup there, and then we do a blog roundup on our B Movies channel Instagram, just at B Movies channel, same as our YouTube, every Friday afternoon, right before this video drops. So, this week, on Monday, we talked about my favorite movies of 2023. If you didn't watch last week's video, I don't like saying top because to me, film is subjective, art is subjective. That's why it's so much fun to talk about and debate. So I have the piece that's my favorite movies of 2023. It's up on the B Movies blog. We also talked about it in last week's video. On Tuesday, we talked about the best of Blumhouse. We talked about the best of A24, which is something just since I've started writing about pop culture on the internet. Two things I'm synonymous with are Bo Burnham and A24. And again, those Bo Burnham, those 6 degrees of separation recently have gotten the list has gotten shorter. So every day is the day that I nervously wake up and I'm terrified I'm going to have a DM from Bo Burnham being like, you were insane. Stop. So that's where we are on there. So since I did one on A24, since I'm a big Blumhouse fan, I wanted to do something about the best of Blumhouse and throw out some of my favorite Blumhouse productions. On Wednesday, we talked about Good for Her horror. I love Good for Her horror. It's such a fun subgenre, and I think it's kind of funny because when I went and saw Midsummer, I actually posted like the Lucille Bluth Good for Her meme, and I was like, Midsummer 2018? 2019? I don't know. It's been 2019 in my head for the past 5 years. So I posted that before I knew it was a subgenre, and I was like, again, finger on the pulse, baby. So Thursday we talked about found footage and horror mockumentaries. I kind of clumped these two together because I think that there is a very thin line between found footage and horror mockumentary. Obviously, horror mockumentaries sometimes err on the side of comedy, whereas found footage, with things like They're Watching and Deadstream, obviously they're comedic, but then you also have The Blair Witch Project, things in that vein. But that is actually going to be our deep dive today because we're going to talk more about these two genres and how they overlap and what the Venn diagram looks like. And then finally today, we talked about Devilish Deeds, which is deal with the devil horror. So things like Ready or Not, where someone in the film has made a deal with El Diablo and he's either come to collect or they didn't realize he was actually going to come to collect. So, just to recap over on B Movies this week, my favorite movies of 2023, Best of Blumhouse, Good for Her horror, found footage and horror mockumentaries, and deal with the devil horror. So next up, it's time for our Bite Size Sunday teaser. Bite Size Sundays are Instagram exclusive reviews. They're smaller reviews. They're about content I still want to discuss, but there's not really enough for a full piece, but I still want to publicly just talk about it, whether I liked it, whether I didn't. And here on YouTube, we actually do an exclusive teaser So if you aren't watching us on YouTube, you don't get that teaser, and So it's just kind of fun to guess. With Bite Size Sunday, I will say my teasers are not very helpful. I kind of pretend like I'm Hannibal Lecter giving Clarice Starling like very cryptic clues that she has to figure out. So just a fair warning. But those Bite Size Sundays can be found over on our Instagram, which, like I said up top, at bmovies channel, same as our Instagram, same as our YouTube. I don't know why these platforms, like in my head now, it's just all Instagram. So same as our YouTube, and those are posted around 8 or 9 a.m. CST on Sunday mornings. So the hint for this week is, as the resident dead mom girl, I feel I have an obligation to cover this movie. So that's your teaser, and the Bite Size Sunday will be revealed on our Instagram Sunday morning. So there's one little bit of housekeeping left, and it's not very pleasant, but I wanted to address it because I did on my personal Instagram mention something about a piece we were going to do, but in my research, I found out something very unsavory and vile about the creator. So I just wanted to let y'all know I will not be covering the FNAF VHS tapes. The person who created them, who I don't think deserves to be named, has admitted to, with a minor, they prepared them. I don't think I can say the G word, but it was a 14-year-old minor, and they have admitted to it, so I will not be covering the FNAF VHS tapes. I may cover Baddington's because he also did Harmony and Horror, which we've covered in the blog. Those are pre-YouTube days, which the blog is turning a year old in a few weeks, and I'm not even ready to talk about that. Like, in 3.5 weeks, we're turning a year old, and that's crazy. I may cover those at some point, but for now, we will not be covering the FNAF VHS tapes, and I just wanted to say that up top, because I forgot I did mention on my personal Instagram, when I started doing my research, I came across, I don't know why this is not a bigger deal, but I came across several videos on YouTube and some other things, and so we will not be covering those. So, that is all the housekeeping out of the way. So let's go ahead and go into our deep dive, which every week we take one or more of the blogs that I have written about, and we do a deeper dive. We talk about them, get a little bit more, take that little peek behind the curtain, get a little bit more in depth. And so I want to talk about found footage and horror documentaries for a second. So like I mentioned in the blog and at the beginning of this video, mockumentaries tend to have a comedic connotation, right? Like when you think mockumentary, immediately it's like you think like Christopher Guest, most recently Theater Camp, which is hysterical and did take one of my honorable mentions for 2023 because it made me laugh. That movie's hysterical. If you haven't seen it, it's so funny and it's so good. But mockumentaries, at least I personally, I consider them to be anything that serves as a faux documentary, because that's kind of the root of the word, right? And found footage is one of my favorite horror subgenres. Like the Blair Witch Project, for those who don't know, it's not only one of my favorite horror movies, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love the Blair Witch Project. When I was at Hyperreal, I'll link the piece below, I used Freud's theory of personality, like the id, the ego, and the super ego, and assigned them to the characters in the Blair Witch Project. That's how much I love the Blair Witch Project. And when it's done right, it's super effective. Again, like the Blair Witch Project, even Bobcat Goldthwait's Willow Creek, which again, like it's found footage with that humorous undertone. Ganja Haunted Asylum. That for some reason every found footage film, the Paranormal Activity, which I argue Paranormal Activity 3 is the best Paranormal Activity. And I will argue that forever. I think the Paranormal 3, when they're children, I think it's the best one. But when it's done right, it's super successful. And, keeping on talking about the Blair Witch Project, which is one of my favorite pastimes, they even went so far as to make Curse of the Blair Witch, which is I bought the 3 VHS pack on eBay, and I don't want to talk about it. they have Curse of the Blair Witch, which was the documentary that they created to accompany the Blair Witch Project, which goes more in depth into the lore and like increase like the validity of the marketing ploy. And if you've seen Curse of the Blair Witch, I think you can even find it on YouTube now. This documentary looks like something you'd see on the History Channel. So to me, that solidifies Blair Witch is both a mockumentary and a found footage film, right? You also have the website that came with the Blair Witch Project and all of the guerrilla marketing that came with the Blair Witch Project. When the new one was released, when Adam Wingard's was released, which I'll defend that movie because I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. They, here in Austin, all down South Congress, they tied up those effigies like in trees and stuff. It was crazy. But I just think with all of these things, that the Blair Witch Project is another prime example of like mockumentary and found footage have a lot of overlap. And obviously, they can be different, and like take Deadstream. Deadstream is not a documentary, which is wonderful. If you've never seen Deadstream, watch it immediately. Also watch the Winters segment in VHS 99 to Hell and Back. It's the strongest segment, even though I love VHS 99, but it's the strongest segment. You know, take that. Deadstream is obviously not a documentary. It is, I would say, primarily found footage. So you do have those where it's one or the other, but with things like the Blair Witch Project, prime example, it is a mockumentary and found footage. And then you have things like the rise of Leslie Vernon, Behind the Mask, the Rise of Leslie Vernon. That is pure mockumentary that turns into feature film. So I just think that these two subgenres are fascinating. I think that there's a lot of overlap, and I love talking about them. So that's how that piece came about. As with most things, I was like, Elliot, I want to talk about this. And Elliot's like, okay. And scene. So next up, we have our segment Special Features. Special Features is reserved for updates on horror, analog horror series or horror ARGs that we've covered on the channel or the blog. Or it's reserved for topics that I want to talk about, but I may not necessarily write about, or I haven't figured out the angle for yet. So that's just another little perk of tuning into our YouTube channel, because we don't always write on the blog about everything I talk about in Special Features. So the first thing we have up in Special Features today, which Vintage 8, I hope you know, I hope you don't think that I'm a creep for how much I talk about you. It's not a creep. You just make really good content, and I just really want to cover your content. But we have video 3 of Married to a Sleepwalker. And it's getting good. And like I teased last week, there's another tie-in to one of my favorite Vintage 8 series, and I'm very excited. So let's go ahead and get started. So we start with footage of Shelley walking behind that tree, like the same spot we saw her in last week. That is the same spot to us within this series, but it's new. It's a new spot she's been walking to. It's not the same spot with the chalk outlines it looks like their carport. Daniel notes he thinks her condition's getting worse. And he also mentions, and we see footage where she's like blacking out during the day. And not only is she blacking out during the day, she's blacking out more often during the day. And so we see Shelley, she's just like absentmindedly like watering a specific patch of grass. And it's like she's disassociating in real time. We also see footage of her pouring out all of the spray Daniel had been using to ward off mosquitoes. Which I think is obviously this has something to do with LV. So then we see Shelley sitting in the living room with a remote in her hand, and the TV is showing nothing but static. Sound familiar? When Daniel comes in, she asks if he hears that. And when Daniel pries a little bit further, Shelley explains she's hearing voices in the static, but she can't decipher what they're saying or what they want. Daniel, who is naturally concerned at this point, Ask Shelley if she'll be okay while he goes to work, and she says she'll be fine. Girl, I don't think you will be. It's not good. And then, if it hasn't clicked yet, It Lives in the Static, anyone? If you haven't watched It Lives in the Static, it's one of my favorite Vintage 8 series. I can't recommend it enough. I digress. We'll get there at the end, but I think this is yet another reference or tie-in to It Lives in the Static, but we'll get into my theories at the end. So we cut to the title card for the video, our Married with a Sleepwalker video, that same video card we've been getting, and Daniel comes home from work. Shelley is I've never seen someone slowly but violently just hack away at vegetables on the counter. And then when Daniel goes to ask her if she's okay, she gets the knife and she holds it to the side of his throat. And I was like... So then Shelley wakes up with no memory of what happens, cool as one of the cucumbers she's probably been chopping into oblivion, and is just alarmingly chipper for someone who just tried to slash her husband in, an act of somnambulism. So that's cool. So then the next scene, and it makes me laugh how, like, this is cut, like, you did such a job of the cuts here, of the jump cuts. It cuts to Daniel putting all of the knives in a case. It almost looks like a case for a drill. And he starts to, speaking of drills, he starts drilling locks on the doors. Shelley then also mentions that the voices in her head she always tells Daniel about aren't saying it's a good idea to follow Mary's idea from the previous video, aka to hide the keys to the padlocks on the door and see what happens when Shelley tries to get out at night. Feel great about that. So Shelley then shares her concerns about them essentially being locked in the house, and Daniel, he thinks it's a good idea because he's like, I think that it'll hopefully keep you inside at night. They briefly argue about the key because Daniel says for this to work, like, Shelley can't know what the key is. Like, that's the test, right? Like, that's the experiment. So Shelley is still hesitant, but she's like, okay. And Daniel says, if you want, we can stop filming and call the doctor. So Shelley, she surrenders. But then she says the voices in her head aren't happy. Again, don't feel great about that. Yikes, 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 yikes. So we cut back to the same newscaster who we've seen in a previous video, who tells us that now at the end of July, which is where we are on the timeline, there have been 2 new cases of LV. However, and it's heartbreaking, it's been found in children. So then Daniel and Shelley sit down to eat dinner, and when Shelley takes a drink of her wine, she claims that it tastes like poison, which, put a pin in that, we'll come back to my theories in a second. Daniel asks if she's tired, and then Shelley begins to talk about how she's always tired, she just feels like she's going through the motions, and to be honest, it's getting to the point where she can't decipher her own reality from, like, her fugue states, essentially. And she can't even be sure that she's with Daniel right now, sitting and having this conversation. And as someone who, I've struggled with insomnia my entire life. And I felt this so hard. Because as someone who's had insomnia, I don't remember ever not having insomnia. Like, as a kid, that's why I would watch so many movies. That's how I watched Fight Club for the first time. Probably way before I ever should watch Fight Club. I felt this so hard. Because when you're running off caffeine and short spurts of sleep, you don't feel like you're in your body. And you, as cliche as it sounds, it feels like you are a spectator in your own life. It feels like you are Donna from Unedited Footage of a Bear. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It's like everything is, you're in a trance. I can't describe it. It's like this haze. You're on autopilot. And so I just felt that so hard. And Vintage 8, like, beautifully done. Masterfully written. So then we cut to various just scenes of Shelley as she watches TV. She stares creepily and blankly into the camera. She sits in a car. And Daniel tells her life isn't a dream, to which Shelley responds, then why does it feel like we've had this conversation before? Which is such good dialogue. I paused it and I was like, chef's kiss. That's such a good line. So then Daniel and Shelley, they continue to have a discussion about like the child they've lost, Daniel's illnesses, just the unfair jabs that life sometimes takes at us, etc. Shelley then asks Daniel about the last time he felt carefree, and he talks about this trip that they took to a burger stand like right before he got sick. And Shelley says her answer is the same. And he jokes that she can't have it, and she says she's going to steal that memory anyway because at least she knows it's real. And I just, this vintage 8, this dialogue is written so well. Like, kudos. So that's where we leave video 3. Vintage 8 question, but don't tell me. Is this a prequel or a sequel to It Lives in the Static? Because the voices in the TV and everything, that's giving big It Lives in the Static vibes. Secondly, I think Shelley may be pregnant. Because when she swips the wine, she says it tastes like poison. And so I think Shelley is either pregnant or she has Livingston and there's something that the mosquitoes don't like. But when you're pregnant, I've never been pregnant, but I've had friends where like things like that, it messes with your taste and your senses. So like things smell bad, things taste bad, smell and taste are amplified. And so that's immediately where my brain went to, is she pregnant? So again, you got me on the edge of my seat, Vintage 8. I'm excited. So next up, this is a tiny special features. So I know the Thompson extension is blowing up right now. I have eyes on it. To be honest, I don't quite know how I feel about this one yet. I was initially into it, but after watching everything, I'm not 100% sure where I fall. So before I dive into it, I want some more content from it. I plan to give my full review soon-ish, but just know I have eyes on it. I just don't know how I feel about it yet. So I just wanted to say that about the Thompson extension. So there's that. Excuse me. Ooh. Ooh. Next up on special features, I thought it would be fun. Since we are in 2024, this year, I swear, if any of y'all complain about not getting enough horror, this year is stacked. Stacked. So unless every single one of these movies sucks, there is no way y'all can't be fed this year. Anyway, so some of the big movies I am looking forward to in 2024, there are a ton. So I narrowed it down to a few, but please know there are a ton of other ones that I'm very excited for. So first up, we have Lisa Frankenstein in February. It is my Instagram handle namesake. It is Diablo Cody written. It has Cole Sprouse. It has Catherine, I can't remember her last name, from Freaky. It looks like a more cleverly written early Tim Burton movie. I have a sneaking suspicion this will probably be one of my favorite movies of 2024. Just already feeling it. Next up, we have Love Lies Bleeding. It looks gay. It looks 80s. It looks steamy. The trailer, I was blown away. It's A24. Definitely looking forward to it. Because I have a huge crush on Kristen Stewart. Obviously, Maxine. It's being described as an over-the-top homage to Giallo films. Sign me up. Huge Ty West fan. Huge fan of Pearl. Huge fan of X. I'm so excited to see this trilogy completed. Terrifier 3. The last time I went and saw Terrifier 2, my friend and I sat down. Our runner came up. And he asked if we knew what this film was about, because apparently a couple who came in before us didn't, and so now they were asking people because apparently that couple was not very happy with their movie-going experience. Is it going to be disgusting? Yes. Am I still excited for it? Yes. Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. I have a feeling we will probably get a teaser soon. I know that the first images are out, but I'm very excited for it. I know that I hate The Witch, but I love The Lighthouse. So I'm very optimistic about Nosferatu. Drive Away Dolls. Very excited. Again, you have a Coen brother, very gay. I think it's going to be great. The Strangers Chapter 1. This one is really intriguing to me, because your girl loves an episodic release, and I would love for it to feel like how the Fear Street trilogy was released. I would love for it to kind of end on a cliffhanger. I'm just really intrigued to see how they're going to do this. I'm very intrigued. Another movie I'm really excited for is potentially, and we'll get to this, I have a new segment, this is a great tie-in. Another movie I'm potentially excited about is Jordan Peele's Untitled new project. However, I am seeing reports that it's been pushed. But my suspicions are, I think it has something to do with the Kojima collab that was recently announced where they're doing the video game and movie. That's my guess, is that's the cinematic tie-in. But I've also heard, and I couldn't find anything about it, so this may be a rumor. I heard he's acquired the rights to The Lost Boys. Because he's announced, we know People Under the Stairs, and we know that there's another thriller coming this year. But I'm just interested. Anything Jordan Peele does, I will go see. So I'm very interested. So those are just some of the movies I'm obviously like, there's so many more movies I'm going to go see. I'm going to see Night Swim next week. Very excited about that. I am going to go see All of Us Stranger. I'm filming this, to peek behind the curtain, I'm filming this on Wednesday. So tomorrow I'm going to see All of Us Strangers. I'm ready to bawl my eyes out. I think it's going to be wonderful. I'm even excited for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So these are just but a few movies I'm extremely excited for. I think it's going to be a good year for movies. And just a reminder, and I will link it in the description box, just a reminder, we have a content calendar that I update every few days. So, bookmark it. It should be at the top of our blog anyway, but I will definitely link it in the description box. It's hopefully going to be a good year for movies. So, another fun thing I thought we could do in special features today is I want to touch on some bmovies resolutions and two of my personal projects that I will be working on that I think you might be interested in. So for bmovies, I've already said this before, but we are going to try, and I just want to remind all of you, bmovies is a 2-woman operation. It is just Elliot and me. So if any of these don't happen, know that we tried our best. We're just working with what we've got. We want to get on TikTok. We want to do Reels, and we want to do YouTube Shorts. So that way, if there are little pieces within our content that we can grab out, maybe lure people in, just show and spread the word of bmovies. I am also looking into, and by that I mean I have not started looking into it all, it's just an idea in my head. I want to see if we can push the audio from our videos onto, like, through an RSS feed and release the B Movies channel videos as both podcasts and videos. Because that way, I know some podcasts I listen to, I watch the video components. Some I just do the audio. So I think it would be nice to give y'all options. And lastly, the B Movies book club is happening. Elliot's working on it, so that is happening. So those are just some things. We've talked about merch. We've talked about other things. I don't want to guarantee you any of that. And honestly, like with the reels and stuff, we're going to try very hard. But just know we would rather provide you with quality content than just bombard you with mediocre content. So if things are not going well and we don't get it released, just know that we're working and we're trying very hard. So for me personally, one of my goals this year is I want to watch a movie a day. And obviously, like if I'm going to, like for example, my movie of the day will be now in the past, but Thursday's movie of the day will be All of Us Strangers. Like, if I'm going to the movies, that movie will be the movie of the day. Like, I don't have to watch a different movie. But every day I'm watching a movie. I know. I'm already like, we can do this. October's going to be fine because the movie of the day can tie in with I'm not going to do a duplicate. It's going to be my 31-day watch. So October is so nuts. We post basically 7 days a week. I'll already tell you that now. But I'm doing a movie a day. Again, my Instagram is linked below at Lisa_Frankenstein_, doing a little write-up and a grid post just every single day. I am also, and this one I'm a little bit nervous about. So a few years ago, I had a project called Love is a Working Title. And what I did is I've never been in love. One time I was very close, but I've never been in love. And so a few years ago, I started a project where I would interview, friends, the one or two family members I speak to, about love, relationships, so that way I would just kind of know what I was looking for, to get different perspectives, to hear different voices. So I'm bringing that back this year, finally, but with a twist. I'm choosing 5 people that I've never been in a serious relationship either. 5 people that I've liked, been in situationships with, etc. And I'm going to tell the stories of those. There are going to be things in these stories that do not make me look good. I also may leave things out. It won't be anything pertinent. It may just be something very, very personal about that person that I don't feel good sharing, but these are shared experiences that I did have with this person, so I think I can write about them. Again, I'm being mindful, and those are going to be released in February. So there's going to be 6 pieces total. One's going to be the intro, 5 different people. I'm obviously going to give them aliases. Anybody else in the story will have aliases. So those will also be plugged on my personal Instagram. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm anxious, but at the same time, another one of my resolutions for this year, I pick a word for the year, and my word is confidence. And it's just to trust my gut and trust my instincts. I've written the first one, and I compared it to one of my friends, and I also, again, on my personal Instagram. I just love Instagram. It's my social media platform of choice because I don't have X or TikTok, and I'm never on Facebook. But I feel like and come with me on this journey for a second, if you've seen Stakes, which is my favorite Adventure Time arc miniseries, whatever you want to call it, when she defeats all of the vampires, that's how I felt after writing this. Like, I felt very, very good, and so I think this is going to be a very good thing, a very therapeutic thing. If there's any backlash, we will cross that bridge when we come to it. So those are just some things I wanted to share with you since it's the first video of the year. And speaking of sharing new things with you, I have a new segment that I'm going to call Subtitles, because these are just little bits of news around the internet. So they don't deserve a full title, but they can get a subtitle. So these are just like little film announcements, 1 to 2 sentence things. I just think it's fun. It's the kind of stuff that, you would just like share to your Instagram story, but I think it's just a fun new little segment. So first up, Trevor Everett's from Good Mythical Morning and Mythical Kitchen will be joining Smosh as a cast member. He will still be appearing on GMM and in the Mythical Kitchen videos, but he's going to be a cast member on Smosh, and I think that's awesome. Next up, Alex Bale released a 2023 recap video. Just an FYI, it has spoilers from Don't Feed the Muse 3, so if you've not seen the finale, I would not watch it yet. Where he announced that he's working on a full-length feature film, and in the meantime, he's going to be dropping the big SpongeBob theory video that he has previously mentioned, some Pixar theories, and more. I kind of smell a new horror ARG or horror series in the works. Robert Rodriguez has announced that he'll be producing a remake of The Faculty. I'm approaching it with cautious optimism because I love The Faculty. I love that movie. Little nervous. Scott Derrickson will be back to direct The Black Phone 2. Loved the first one. My sister hated it because my brother-in-law and I have been joking that my sister hates movies because she did love Promising Young Woman, though. I made her watch it and she thinks it's wonderful. So we did get somewhere. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it is cedar season where I live. And I've tested myself multiple times for COVID. I'm having to take the most powerful dose of Sudafed they can give you over the counter as popping it in the morning, like a vitamin. So that's living the dream. So it seems like I have not seen a formal announcement. I have only seen in some Reddit threads and some personal blogs and things that Jordan Peele's movie that was supposed to release on Christmas Day of 2024 has been pushed back. But I will keep y'all posted. And finally, the teaser for The Last Omen has dropped, and dare I say it looks really good. It's currently slated for an April 5th theatrical release, so I'm sure we'll get a full trailer soon. So, this has been Subtitles, the new segment, and I think that's about it for today. I know we've been doing 50-minute videos, but it's just, this first week back is always so rough. Because, the big holidays are over, and it's so weird going back to, just life after the holidays, because it's so chaotic during the holiday season. But I am hoping that we'll have some stuff for you soon. I will link Vintage 8's channel below. I will link that Blair Witch piece I talked about below. I will link my favorite movies, and I will also link our content calendar so that you have everything in the description box down below. As always, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Lisa_Frankenstein_. Feel free to follow Elliot at reading.with.red. Follow us on Instagram, pretty please. We have fun over there. It's just bmovies channel, same as our YouTube. And be sure to check out the blog, just bmovies.blog. And those 4 things I just said are always linked in the description box below. Please subscribe if you haven't. It is free. Please give us a like. Leave us a comment if you want to. And I think on that note, all that's left to do is fade to black.